The baby on my doorstep. The cry before dawn. The cry came before the sun. It was sharp, desperate, cutting through the early morning silence like a blade. At first, I thought I was dreaming. I had worked a double shift at the hospital the night before, and exhaustion often played tricks on my mind. But the cry came again, louder this time. Real. Human. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding. "Lord, please don't let this be what I think it is," I whispered as I swung my legs to the floor. I pulled on a sweater and walked toward the front door. With every step, the sound grew clearer. A baby. Crying. Right outside my house. When I opened the door, cold air rushed in, and there she was. A tiny baby girl lay in a woven basket placed carefully on my doorstep. She was wrapped in a soft pink blanket, her little face scrunched in distress, her cries weak but persistent. A small diaper bag sat beside her, neatly zipped. No chaos. No rush. Just abandonment done quietly. My knees almost gave out. "Oh my God!" I breathed, dropping to the floor. I lifted her gently. She couldn't have been more than a few weeks old. Her skin was smooth and deep brown, her lips full, her hair soft and coiled. She looked up at me with wide, watery eyes, as if she was searching my face for answers. "I got you," I whispered instinctively. "You're okay now." Tucked inside the basket was a folded piece of paper. My hands shook as I opened it. "Please take care of her. I love her, but I can't give her the life she deserves. I'm sorry." No name. No explanation. No goodbye. Just like that, my life changed. Within an hour, my quiet street was filled with flashing lights. A neighbor must have called it in, because 2 police cars and a social services van pulled up outside my house. Officers asked questions gently, writing notes while one woman from Child Protective Services held the baby. "She was found right here?" the officer asked. "Yes," I said. "On my doorstep." "Any cameras?" "Doorbell cam." I shook my head. "Not yet." I'd been planning to install one. The CPS worker, a tired-looking black woman named Denise, looked at me thoughtfully. "You handled this well," she said. "Most people panic." I swallowed. I just couldn't leave her crying. Denise nodded. "Do you have children?" "No," I said softly. "It's just me." She hesitated. "If no family is located, she'll be placed in temporary foster care." Something tightened in my chest. "Can I?" I paused. "Can I be her temporary placement? Just until something is figured out." Denise studied my face for a long moment. "You're willing to do that?" "Yes," I said without thinking. "I already feel responsible." After background checks, emergency paperwork, and a long morning of forms, Denise handed the baby back to me. "For now," she said. "She'll stay with you." I looked down at the little girl sleeping peacefully in my arms. For the first time since the cry woke me up, she was quiet. That first night, she slept in a makeshift crib I built from pillows and blankets beside my bed. I barely slept at all. Every sound she made sent me reaching for her. She cried. She needed feeding, changing, comfort. But she also smiled. It was small and accidental at first, but it felt like a blessing. "You're something special, you know that?" I whispered. The next morning, Denise called. "You need to register her with a temporary name for records," she said. "Do you have one in mind?" I looked at the baby, who was gripping my finger tightly. "Hope," I said. "Hope Johnson." I used my last name without thinking. Hope settled into my life like she'd always belonged there. She barely cried, slept through most nights, and stared at me with a calm intelligence that felt unreal for a baby her age. Neighbors noticed. "That baby doesn't cry," Mrs. Turner said one afternoon. "She looks happy." "She is," I replied, surprised at how sure I sounded. 3 months passed. No one came forward to claim Hope. No missing child reports matched her description. No hospital records. Nothing. "She may have been born at home," Denise said. Or somewhere far from here. Hope was growing fast. She laughed easily, clapped her hands when music played, and seemed unusually aware of people's emotions. One night, as I rocked her to sleep, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. She's beautiful. Thank you for loving her. My breath caught. Who is this? I typed back. No response. The message haunted me. Hope was nearly a year old when it happened. I was in the kitchen making dinner when there was a knock at the door. A woman stood there, trembling. She was thin, exhausted, and crying before she even spoke. "I'm her mother," she said. My heart dropped. Her name was Keisha. She was 22. Homeless. A victim of abuse. Afraid. "I watched from across the street," she said through sobs. "I saw how you loved her. I knew I made the right choice." We sat for hours while she told me everything. "I didn't abandon her because I didn't love her," Keisha said. "I did it because I loved her too much." Tears streamed down my face. "I want her to have a future," she whispered. "And right now, I can't give her that." Social services reopened the case. Keisha was offered rehabilitation, housing support, and therapy. Weeks later, she came to me again. "I want you to adopt her," she said. My hands shook. "You're her mother," I said. "And you're her home," she replied. The courtroom was quiet the day the judge spoke. "Do you accept permanent guardianship and adoption of this child?" the judge asked. "Yes," I said, voice breaking. Keisha stood beside me, holding my hand. "For the record," the judge said, "this child is fortunate to be loved by two women who chose her." Hope laughed from the gallery. Hope grew into a remarkable girl. Kind, smart, gentle. She excelled in school, helped others without being asked, and carried empathy far beyond her years. When she was 10, she asked me, "Why did my other mommy leave me?" I knelt in front of her. "She didn't leave you," I said. "She protected you." Hope nodded thoughtfully. "Then I'm lucky." On Hope's 18th birthday, we stood together in the backyard. Keisha was there too. Healthy, smiling, whole. "I used to think abandonment meant rejection," Hope said. "Now I know it can also mean sacrifice." She turned to me. "Thank you for opening the door that morning." I smiled through tears. Sometimes, the greatest blessings come wrapped in cries before dawn. And sometimes, family begins with a knock you never expected. Hope turned 19 with questions that no longer stayed quiet in her heart. College had opened her mind in ways none of us fully expected. Sociology classes, psychology lectures, late-night conversations about identity, belonging, and choice. One evening, she sat across from me at the kitchen table, books spread out, her laptop glowing. "Mom," she said carefully, "do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't opened the door that morning?" I leaned back, studying her face, the same face I'd seen wrapped in a blanket on my doorstep years ago. "Every day," I admitted, "but not with regret." She nodded slowly. "I think about it too, about how thin life is. One decision, one moment." "You were meant to be here," I said firmly. She smiled, but her eyes carried something deeper, restlessness. A week later, Hope received a letter. It came in a plain envelope. No return address. She brought it to me unopened. "I don't know why," she said, "but I'm scared." I opened it carefully. Inside was a handwritten note. "Hope, there are things about your beginning that you deserve to know. Not out of pain, but out of truth. When you are ready, come find me. The address is enclosed. Someone who watched you grow from afar." My heart raced. "This isn't your biological mother," Hope said quietly. "No," I replied. "This feels different." Hope folded the paper with steady hands. "I want to go." Willow Street sat on the edge of the city. Quiet, old, lined with trees that had seen generations come and go. The house was small, pale blue, with chipped paint and a porch that creaked when we stepped on it. A woman opened the door. She was older, late 50s maybe, with sharp eyes softened by sorrow. "You look just like her," she whispered. "Like who?" Hope asked. "My daughter," the woman replied. "Keisha." Her name was Lorraine. She invited us in and sat slowly, hands trembling. "I didn't know about you until after you were born," she said to Hope. Keisha hid the pregnancy. She was ashamed, hurt, afraid. Lorraine swallowed hard. "When I found out, it was too late. She'd already left you at that house." Hope's voice was calm but firm. "Why didn't you come sooner?" Lorraine's eyes filled with tears. "Because I thought I had failed twice. Once as a mother, and once as a grandmother." Silence filled the room. "I watched from a distance," Lorraine continued. "I wanted to be sure you were safe, loved." "You were," Hope said simply. On the drive home, Hope was quiet. Too quiet. That night, she finally spoke. "Why does everyone think love has to look like leaving?" she snapped. "Why did everyone walk away from me?" I reached for her hand. "They didn't walk away from you," I said gently. "They walked away from what they couldn't face in themselves." Hope shook her head. "That doesn't make it hurt less." "No," I admitted. "But it makes it honest." Hope started therapy, not because she was broken, but because she was brave. She began volunteering at a youth shelter, working with abandoned and foster kids. One evening she came home glowing. "I met a girl today," she said. 6 years old. She asked me if she was bad because her mom didn't come back. My chest tightened. "What did you tell her?" "I told her the truth," Hope replied. "That sometimes adults run from pain, and children pay the price. But it doesn't define their worth." I smiled. "You're becoming who you were saved to be." Years later, we sat at one table. Me, Hope, Keisha, Lorraine. It wasn't perfect. There were pauses, old wounds, quiet apologies. But there was food, laughter, healing. Keisha looked at Hope and said, "You turned my worst moment into something beautiful." Hope reached across the table. "You gave me life." She gave me stability. I gave myself purpose. Lorraine wiped her eyes. 3 generations, she whispered, finally facing truth. Hope graduated with honors. She chose social work. On her graduation day, she hugged me tightly. "You didn't save me," she said. "You chose me." I held her like I did the first morning. "And you chose life," I replied. Years later, Hope stood at a podium at a national conference. "I was abandoned as a baby," she said clearly. "But abandonment did not abandon me." The room was silent. One person opened a door. One choice changed everything. Love is not always planned, but when it shows up, it must be answered. The crowd stood. I cried. Today, there's a small plaque beside my front door. It reads, "This home believes in second chances." Sometimes I sit on the porch in the early morning, and I listen. Not for cries, but for the quiet reminder that the greatest stories don't begin with perfection. They begin with courage and an open door.